life is built, not fate. We do whatever it takes. Welcome to it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the WIT podcast, which you guys know by now stands for whatever it takes. Brandon and I in studio again today. I'm going to take you through the ground rules real quick. Eventually, we won't have to do these, but we just want to make sure you guys are clear and understand where we are with things. So number one, we just always going to ask you guys to like, share, comment, leave a review on the podcast, things of that nature, just so we can keep getting it out. We rely heavily on you guys to get this thing out there. Of course, you know, we promote it, but it definitely helps us if you leave a review, you talk about it, especially if you're getting something from it. We would greatly appreciate that. The second thing that I just want to bring to your attention is this is a rated R podcast, right? We don't intentionally find ways to drop an F-bomb here or there, but it does happen. We're passionate about what we're doing. When we get into flow state, sometimes it just kind of comes out. So, you know, just want to let you guys know if you have kids in the car or around or whatever, it's probably not the best podcast for them to be hearing right now. So just want to lay that stuff out. So all that being said, I want to give you guys kind of an overview of what we're doing today. So one of the things that that Brandon and I work on a lot, and he's really good at this, so he's going to be talking to you guys a lot about this today, is just being honest with yourself, doing a real intentional self-evaluation and what that means and how it's done. You know, we've been in different walks of life. He's been in battles of addiction, right? So I think that's fair to say. Yeah. And so he's got a lot of really great tools. I've personally learned a lot from him on what it means to do an honest self-evaluation, like what it means to actually sit down and be honest with yourself about what things that you're struggling with and why you're struggling with them, and lists and things like that. So we think, I was talking to Brandon and I was like, you know, what are some important topics that we can cover going into this new year that are going to really help you guys out a lot? And he brought it up and said, we got to focus on self-evaluation, like them being honest with themselves, us continuing to be honest with ourselves, because there's no way that you guys are going to be able to set badass targets if you're fucking lying to yourself. Right. I think that's fair, right? So, you want to start us off? Yeah. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, that's man, this is such an important topic. You know, it's like, cause when everybody wants to go or wants these things, but a lot of time what they don't want to look at is like where they're starting at.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like if you call and ask me for directions to my house. You can't say, oh, I'm out west somewhere. Like, I need to know exactly details of where you're starting at.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with us in life, you know? But I saw the power in this and experienced the power in this. Man, when I was first getting my stuff together and I was working through this exercise, essentially unpacking literally everything I've been through, just resentments, fears, like everything. And unpacking it from the time I could think back. So from the first like fears that registered, and it was broken out in this exercise, you know, the who, the what, the why, but the most important, what is my part in it? And man, that changed my life. But going through this exercise changed my life. But the biggest thing that it taught me to do is like, what's my part in it? Really look at myself for the first time in my life. This is the first time I ever looked at myself, because I had this story of victimhood, and you know, it's like I had this really traumatic life, and you know, being in prison, addiction, all these struggles and trials and tribulations. And I would share, when I told you about it, by the end of the story, you would say, you know what, man, I would probably be in those same shoes if I went through that myself, because I made it all about everybody else. I was just a victim of the circumstances. But when I was truly able to look at myself and own that situation and own all of it, man, it was like, that's when I felt like I had like could start taking control somewhat of my life. Mm-hmm. I started having like a choice in where I'm going. And in doing that, man, I had to get rigorously honest with self. And that's how it was told to me, to be rigorously honest. Because, I think where a lot of people get the game twisted is we judge ourselves off our intentions. Well, I didn't mean to do that. I was going to do that, but then this happened. Or, whatever it was, it wasn't on purpose. I didn't mean to do that. and we'll judge ourselves based off our intentions. And what's crazy about it on the flip, we'll judge everybody else off their actions.
Right.
It's
Oh,
like when
that's
we
good.
when we can flip the script on that and judge ourselves off our actions and everybody else off our intentions, I stay in a much better place with that.
How do you do, if you're in the habit of doing exactly what you just said though, if I'm in the space of like judging everybody off of their actions and my intentions, like maybe you're getting to that spot, but like what are some things, some practices of things that I can start doing right now where I'm like, okay, how do I stop doing that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't think
Yeah.
I don't know, I could be wrong, but I don't think most people operate that way out of maliciousness. I think
Right.
they just don't understand what's happening. So if I'm doing it, how do I stop it?
I agree. I think first and foremost, I have to make sure that I'm in a good place emotionally, that I have a strong emotional foundation, and that I can actually, I'm experiencing reality, not what I wish was reality. You know, I'm not living in this place of like, I wish and like painting this picture that's not reality and trying to get everybody else to see it. Can't you see this is purple when the wall's clearly black?
Right.
You know,
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
it's crazy because, you know, I've dealt with a lot, I've been there myself and I've dealt with a lot of people like that. But I think it just comes down to like our true actions, like our true actions and judging ourselves strictly off of that. And it's not like, man, it's not easy. And
Not.
it's really hard to look at yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the big things for me is I have to make sure ego is completely removed from it. And that I'm really having this ownership over the actions I'm taking. But it's like, man, if I'm fucking something up, like I gotta be honest with myself, and I gotta remove everyone else from it, you know. And what I mean by that, it doesn't matter, you know, what this person did to me or what this person didn't do or whatever. Anything that's outside of me, I gotta remove, you know. And even if that person did do something to me, it's like, okay, where was I at that I brought this person into my life that would do that to me, you know? And not saying there's not some conniving people out there, but there is. But usually, are what sign did I just blow past that it was shown this person doesn't belong in your life, you know? And but I let my ego get in there and it's like, oh, well, no, you can probably help them change and do this and that, and it's like they're showing you who they are. But I won't get off in the tracks with that.
No,
but
that's good, and that's a really good point. And we could probably do a whole nother podcast on that thing because there are probably a bunch of warning signs that you could give to all these people that are like, hey, you know, here's some things you got to be. But it all goes back to like if you're not hyper self-aware,
yeah.
then you're going to run into more of those situations by default, right?
Yeah.
Because that's big, dude. I
Yeah.
didn't ever think about that.
That's it was just stuff that was shown and to me for sure. I think it's simply put though, going back to like how could somebody start right now, and it's removing any excuses and removing any excuse of why I did the thing, and just having that ownership in it to where it's okay. This is what I want my actions and my decisions to be aligned with today. This is how I want my day to go. Am I actually doing those things? And if I'm not, why not? You know, why aren't I? Because I've been in the place where it's like, man, I can't get my body to do what I wanted to do. You know, like I want to do good. I want to be an overachiever. I want to be disciplined. I want to get up at the same time every day. But I can't fill the gap. I can't make it happen. I've been there before. And it's a fine line of being accountable and failing your way forward and to beating yourself up over it as well. And just going into it like horrible self-talk, but being completely aware for me of my bull, not buying into my, you know, it's like, I have conversations with myself all day and it's like, I call myself out constantly. Like, no, you're on some, like I got to redirect, you know?
Did you learn to start? Did you like? This is just me just asking like raw. Like, did you learn to start doing that by like journaling or like? Because that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like you're good at it now because you've been doing it for a long time. But that's hard as fuck to do. Real talk. Like
Yeah.
to be, you know, like to be emotionally charged and be able to stop yourself and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing right now?
Yeah.
Right. Like, what are some things where you can now do it just out of like, I mean, you still got to practice,
Yeah.
but you can now pretty much do it on demand. How do you, like, again, going back to how do I do that? Like, where do I start?
So me personally, man, I realized, like, when I set out on this journey and this mission to become my best, and I was done living that way, I realized pretty quickly I got a couple voices in my head, and one of them is fighting against me. One of them is self-sabotage. One of them self-doubt. It's all these negative things. It's, Andy Frisell refers to it as a bitch voice, and that's exactly what it is. And, I remember it was like the first time that I noticed this, like in the morning. My morning routine is extremely important. And it's important for me to put in earbuds. Like, I do a prayer, my reading, my praying, and then I immediately put in earbuds. I have to, because if not, I'm going to start having a conversation within self, and a lot of times it's not going to be that healthy. So the first time was like, this was, happening, and like I was talking loud, and I'm like, and I was talking what I wanted. Like, I was talking that very loud. I was having to talk over the voice in my head,
You were speaking it verbally, or were
yes,
you?
verbally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, that's awesome.
and just like kicking it out,
Yeah.
And then eventually, it got quieter and quieter, but I still have to do those same things. I almost have to detach from self.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing right now?
Yeah.
And it was, just being willing for me, like, to call myself out. Like, cause I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and it was like, Brandon, I don't just wake up at, 4:30 every morning feeling like taking on the world like you do. I'm just not all these things that you talk about. And here's the thing, like, I'm not all of them either.
Right. Not
Like,
me
it's
either.
just continuous practice every day.
Yeah.
And like, this is my intention, and I'm just going to fail my way forward there. And I think a lot of people will get into a space like, oh, I can't do that. What they're talking about, I can't do that perfectly. That's just not me. So I'm just not even going to venture down that path.
Yeah.
How
many days do you do it perfectly?
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never. I mean, there's plenty of days where I wake up, my alarm goes off. The last place I want to be is the gym.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
it's the battle of the two voices, like we
Yeah.
were talking about. It's like, I can stay in bed.
Yeah.
There's nothing preventing me from staying in bed. I can.
Right.
But I also know the outcome that's gonna come from that.
Right.
There is gonna be negative self-talk, because then it's gonna be like, I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna end up late, or I'm gonna end up feeling like shit. I'm gonna be like, you stupid dumbass, you should have worked out this morning.
Right.
And then I got to deal with that all day.
Right. Right. Yes. And I literally had that morning this morning. I did not want to get out of bed and just force myself through it. I had to remind myself of, like, all the reasons I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But going back on
Yeah.
the evaluation of self, I think a lot of people live in this like fairy tale land of and call it their reality, and it's not the case. They're trying to look a certain way, whether keeping up with the Joneses type of a thing, or it's going to be great when, and it's like, it's right here, it's happening, and just like live in this false place. But when I can, like, just remove all that, it's like right here, right now, what are the facts of everything? And really being willing to look at myself before anything.
Yeah.
Like that was, I had like the first time, I got into, it was, kind of a confrontation with somebody, and this was shortly after I did that exercise. And instead of my knee-jerk reaction being to get defensive and go on the attack, I immediately just looked into myself. Was like, okay, is my side of the street clean here? Like, is my side of the street clean? And if it is, all good. If not, okay, I need to make that right. But, it's, for me, again, keeping the ego completely removed out of it, and just focusing on self, and not based off my intentions.
Yeah.
It's not like of what I'm gonna do. All the goals, targets, vision, all of that's great. But it's like, some people is like, oh, they'll soup themselves up when their actions haven't done that. And that's where I feel like ego steps in.
Yeah.
Because I feel like confidence will come from rigorously, continuously, relentlessly putting in that work every day. And when we know, we can start trusting ourselves to do the things that we say that we're going to do.
Well, and you can't build a business like you've built or like some of the stuff I've worked on in the past if you don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because how do you trust other people if you don't even trust yourself?
100%.
If you're bullshit yourself, then you're not going to believe the words that come out of other people's mouths because you're going to think they're bullshitting you too. And now you live in this constant state of fear, which I've seen entrepreneurs struggle with delegation because they don't fucking trust themselves. Right. So they're like, oh, I just got to find better people who I trust more or whatever. And then we go back and ask them the honest questions like, okay, so let's talk about your morning routine. Let's talk about promises that you keep to yourself and things like that. And they're like, oh, I'm not very good at that. And, and there's a bevy of things that go along with it. But it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's easier to look at somebody else.
It is.
It's way easier to look at somebody else. And going like into this is all about like the relationship we have with ourselves. It's like having this evaluation of self that's based off reality and based off our actions, not our intentions, that's something that I hold very, very close and want to keep my finger on the pulse with that. But with that, is like learning to, like you said, to start trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
To where it's like, okay, a lot of people like want to, like, if we're taking a picture of self, let's make it all pretty looking. Let's make it really pretty, make sure the lighting's all good.
Yeah.
But like, what's the real deal?
It's like this exercise that was taught to me a long time ago is like stand in front of one of those long plated mirrors.
Yeah.
And look at yourself and be like, do I like this human?
Right.
Honestly, and not just the physical side of it, mental, emotional,
all
of it. Right. Do I like this human? And most people can't even do that. You know what I mean? But I think that honest evaluation of, do I like this human? If the answer is no, you got fucking work to do.
Right.
And that's where it all starts, right?
Right. That was, and I'm thinking back on like my experience with this when I was first getting started. And this is like, man, I was so broken and I was so, I was just broken and hopeless. And once I stepped in and it's like, okay, I tried to take my own life. I can't even die, right? Like this is my only other option. And so it was pretty easy for me to look at myself, like, cause there was no hiding it. Like, this is clear, you are the fucking problem, and it's like, a lot of people, like, it's easier to divert and make the problem about somebody else. It's like when somebody will tell me, it's like, oh man, I can't keep any employees, or I can't keep a job longer than a year. No one values me, or whatever the case may be. And they'll run through these stories, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the one thing in common? It's us. And it was just big for me to really lay it all out. And I didn't have, like, I think a lot of people, it's like, okay, I want to hide this thing in the closet. I don't want to look at it. And this could be everything. I talk finances with a lot of people, and it's either something people like enjoy talking about, or like super insecure and just don't feel good talking about it at all. And it sucks that it doesn't have to be that way. But with that being said, it's like, okay, if I want to, be able to buy a home, or I want to be able to, reach this amount of net value or net worth, then it's like, I have to know where I'm starting. Like, I have to know exactly. I can't, like, whatever the dollar amount in the bank, I can't, oh man, I think it's probably a little bit more than that. I felt like it was. It doesn't change that,
Yeah.
So it's like, if we can bring that to like everything, it's like, what do the actual facts say that I'm at? Where do they say that I am? And recognizing those things, so we know like what I need to work on. We know where I need to tighten up. It's like, because I don't know, it was said to me early on, it's like the devil's in the detail.
Yeah.
And I realized that because, man, I've had a lot of success beyond my wildest dreams, that it just looked fucking amazing. But when I went through seasons, waking up in a house I never thought in a million years I could be in, going out deciding which car I want to drive today, packing going to the beach house, like living this life and painting that picture for you. but inside I was miserable. I was not happy. I was not fulfilled. Like I was not happy, you know?
Yep.
And it was, like I say, like, man, there's times that I bet I was happier waking up in an 8x12 cell, and that sounds fucking crazy because it is.
Well, I feel that.
Yeah.
And I get that. I mean, it's, yeah, for sure.
But if I don't pay attention to the detail, like my spiritual life is my foundation. And if I stop doing my maintenance every day, if I stop doing the things that get me the results, then I stop seeing those things. Like it doesn't even matter. Might as well not even be there because I don't even fucking see them because I'm crawling down some rabbit hole, you know. But so I have to be really self-aware. Like it's like, all right, man, you're slipping over here, you're slipping over there. You need to do more work over here, you know. And I just have to be accountable to that. Or it's like, man, I can just go down a bad path quickly upstairs, you know.
I used to make posts like that, like what does it mean to be like multi-dimensional? Meaning like tight in the spiritual side, relationship side, physical side, business wise, whatever. And I'd always get people that would say things like, well, I know guys that are multi-millionaires, if not billionaires, and they're fat as and whatever. And I'm like, but bro, you don't get to open the whole book to see like what's happening behind the scenes. I've met a lot of guys that are very overweight, or maybe they're in good shape, but their relationships at home suck, or you know, whatever. But how do you, so if I'm one of these guys listening right now and I'm like I want to get all the things in line, I want to get all the things in order, and I know it starts with me, and I know it starts with self, but like, where do I begin? Like where's the starting point?
Well, so I want to say something before I dive into that you going off of what you first said. And there's always going to be an exception. Because people will say that to me, that you know, said similar things to me. There's always going to be the exception.
We were just talking about the other day.
You know, and it's like, I just can't live like that. You know, I know what works for me, and I've seen work for countless others. But really, where to start at? Like, where do we want to start? As like, who is the men or the woman that we want to be? Who do we really want to be? And it's like writing this stuff out and going through our days. Do our actions say that we're this person? This is who we want to be. This is how we want to look at ourselves. This is how I want you to look at me. But do my actions and my decisions reflect that? You know, are they really in alignment with that? And it's what
if who do I want to be is not who I am? I'm just asking you this because I've gotten this a lot, where people are like, you know, they're 20 years into their career. And they're like, I never wanted to be in this seat anyway. So now I'm so far, like when I sit down and I write out who I want to be, the man or the woman I want to be, I'm so far away from that person. How do I reconcile these two people?
I think it all starts with steps, right? You know, and I think like it was really, I think there's a lot of things that made my success happen. And big part is like where I was starting from. I'd never had some like heights, you know, of great success.
This is why I'm asking you this, because because you have to me, you have the extreme story. Like, you were something totally different than what you actually were called and wanted to be, right? And now you've flipped that all the way over to being this completely other human being. Like, I mean, you are one extreme to the other, for real, right? So I think it's just, if you just share with people, like, you literally had to reconcile what I would label as good versus evil, evil versus good, right?
And so a big part of that is, like I always say, like, I didn't just wake up like this, right? Like, and in the levels of, you know, a lot of people, I believe, will jump in and it's like, okay, all right, I'm done living this way, and I'm going to do all of these things. This is the perfect picture of me that I see, and I'm going to do all the things right now. And it's just like, you know, a small example is they're used to waking up at 8 o'clock, and now I'm gonna start waking up at 4:30 tomorrow, and I'm gonna hold that line. That's really freaking tough to do. And because your body's not used to it, and so it's like, you know, stepping back like 15 minutes a week, you know, type of thing. But that is an example like of like everything, you know. where a lot of people just try to take on too much and they're super excited, ready to get after it. And then, you know, a few days later, a week later, it's like, oh, this is too much.
Overwhelmed.
And just stop doing it all.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just adding a thing. When I have somebody like start doing a morning routine, we start with like getting up at the same time every day, and then do things every single day, you know, to really develop into this person. And it's like, one thing I can say is that I truly believe we can only see from where we're at. And we can only see from where we're at. So with that being said, you know, if this is like the next level, and I think people will either underestimate themselves or overestimate themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make. I had somebody, you know, tell me a while back. It's like, how much do you want to make over the next 2 years? You know, they said something that was like $8 million, and I'm like, okay,
What do you make?
How
What do
does
you make
that
now?
happen?
What do you make now?
Right, exactly.
80,000. You're
Right,
like, oh, holy
right.
shit.
I want to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be a millionaire, and it's like, okay, well, how much money do you have now?
Right.
5,000. It's like, okay, well, let's first figure out how to get 50.
Right.
Let's figure out how to get 100.
Right.
And then a few hundred, you know, and then just continuously going. And it's the same, like if we use that example that we talked about on finances on everything, you know, and just having these steps that we're going through. And I think, like, with that being said, a lot of people will jump into something. I'll use, you know, the sales consultants at our company as an example. And this is just an example, but it's anything, a lot of things you experience when you really go all in, you can experience some pretty quick success. And so, like, as a sales consultant at our company, you know, everybody's starting off at the ground floor, and then they level up really fast in the first year, and, you know, making, you know, tripled their income, making more money than they thought possible. And now they're at this level at the table, and they're sitting there looking down like, man, I'm on top of the world. I've made it. I've arrived. And I just want to stay here the rest of my life. I've made it. That's where I feel like 90% of people stay.
That's right.
But a very few will actually turn around and be like, man, this is cool, but I'm very far from where I could be.
It's like you turn around and you go, that was a step.
Right. Exactly. Like, are we comparing ourselves to what we come from or what we could be? You know, and for me, it's like, when I need gratitude, I compare myself to, I look back to where I came from. When I need to be inspired, I look to where I'm going.
Yep.
But that was like, man, I think that with the self-evaluation, like, just to simply put, is truly learning to judge ourselves based off our actions and not our intentions. And in writing that out, like, what do my actions say I am every day? You know, like, who actually am I, and who do I want to be? And to answer your question, you know, filling that gap, I'm nowhere near the person I want to be. I can't say that I am either, you know, because, like, one thing I say is I'm extremely far from where I want to be, but I'm very grateful for where I'm at. I am grateful for the man I am today, but I'm very far from where I want to be. And I mean that in all areas. The man I'm going to become. You know, it's like I still try to grow every single day. And I feel like we should always have this human that we're chasing, this man, this woman that we're chasing, this better version of ourselves that we should hopefully never catch. You know.
Yeah. I think as you progress through the different levels, at least from my experience, the eyes you have today can only see the next level in front of you.
Right.
But then when you get to that next level, your vision changes. Right. Now you can see the next level. Right. I mean, there's definitely things that I can see now that I couldn't see when I was 20.
Right.
You know, and that's the progressions, right? You know, I often relate a lot of things to when I first started taking classes to become a pilot. I didn't know about shit. Right. So I had to be in the space of, like, I'm a student. I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And number one, if I don't do it right, this is life or death.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of what you're talking about is very applicable in that. They would say things like, you have to know where you are at all times. And you have to know where you're going at all times.
Yeah.
And you have to learn the instruments so you can trust the instruments. And that means you have to trust yourself. So if you half-ass learn how to read instruments, you're going to have to fucking fly this plane, which means at some point in time, you will fly this fucking thing into the ground.
Right.
So you have to do the disciplines to learn the gauges, and you have to do, it's all pre-flight. So you gotta be routine. There's gotta be a routine. It's gotta be consistent, all of that stuff. But also, if I just stop flying a plane when I learned how to fly a single prop plane, a little baby Cessna plane, I don't get to ever fly a jet.
Yeah.
But I also have to be disciplined to go through the progressions and do them the right way and not half-ass.
Right.
And be honest with myself all the time, so that when I'm sitting next to an instructor, I'm going, bro, I don't 100% get this thing, instead of trying to pretend like I can get it.
Exactly.
Saying to the instructor, I don't 100% get this, and being honest with enough that if I'm not honest with him and I'm not honest with myself, I'm going to go up another level in this plane. I'm not going to completely know how to fly that plane. And I could literally risk the lives of the people in the plane and myself.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really get that that's life.
Yeah.
Like that's real life.
Right.
Right. Like if we try to jump levels, or we try to pretend like we know more than we know, or we try to hotwire the process in, like, the pre-flight or whatever, or we are taking instruction from other people. Like I take instruction from you and other coaches I've had and whatever. Like if we're just not honest, we're gonna crash the plane.
Right. 100%.
But and for a lot of people, they're like, oh well, that's not that big a deal. I mean, it's not really, my life is not really a plane. I can always start back. Yes, I get it. I've quote unquote crashed my plane a few times. But the start over is not that fucking easy. I'm getting older.
Right.
So the more times I gotta be like, well, I tried to hop a level there. Now I got to start over. Now it's actually harder.
Right.
Because I'm older.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that's so good. It is exactly like that, and like, I think a lot of people, from me, a lot of people fall into that mindset, like, oh, I got this, or I don't want to let you know that I'm not okay right now. I don't want to let you know that I don't know, or whatever the thing is. It's like, and it's all ego.
Yeah.
It is all ego, but with like, and so this is like kind of when I was starting out, I was coming from like super low bottoms, so I wasn't trying to, there was no impressing you,
Yeah.
It was like, this is just the raw, real deal. And this is exactly where I'm at right now. And that's like, man, it doesn't matter, how, if it looks pretty, if it like, it's real, it's just got to be real. And I think that's a big thing that I see a lot of people do, though, is they this self-justification and all these fucking outs and excuses. It's like, at the end of the fucking day, it doesn't matter. It's like, did we or didn't we?
Yeah.
And it's like, when we start, and I feel like this starts happening at an early age, when it's like, oh, well, that's okay because of this. It's okay you got that F because of this, or it's okay
your teacher's mean.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever the outside circumstances that is out of our control. But it's like, when we can bring it into like truly what's in our control, and just remove the fucking excuses and stop giving ourselves those outs, to where it's like, okay, did I get sick? Did I have a headache? Or whatever the case, it's either I did or I didn't, and that, holding that line, when we can fall into that space, it's like, man, that builds so much like self-confidence and a surety, and for me, it's like, I always say I don't have a choice. And, when it comes to those things, like, I just stopped giving myself a choice. And this was probably, I felt like a couple years ago, up until a time, it's like, I had to fight really hard to hold these lines, of eating the way I wanted to, of doing, my spiritual disciplines and all of the things, the fitness. Like, I had to fight really hard to go to the gym every day, to eat, 80% clean, to do all those things. And it took a whole lot of effort. I feel like the first like year and a half, but then it just became more my nature and like what I do. And in the process of all this, I stopped giving myself a choice. It was just way easier. Like, all right, this is my target. This is my vision. This is what it takes to do that. This is the work that I got to put in. Am I willing to do that? Yes. Okay, that's it. Like, I don't have a choice. It's whatever it takes.
Is that also the same as you stop giving yourself an out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's, it's like, a lot of people will waste so much time, energy, and focus on, deciding if they want to do something, deciding if that out is acceptable, that excuse. There's so much time and energy wasted. Like, do I feel like doing this? Well, this happened. And, I guess it's okay. I don't. And it's like, man, like, if we think about how much time is wasted on trying to make that decision, it's like, if we just remove that and just step forward, that was something that was super helpful for me. That but going back to, I got to get really comfortable. I had to get really comfortable with like self-criticism and in a positive way. Not beating myself up, but it's like, man, okay, this is the things I need to work on. I've had people I've worked with people before, and it's like I'll tell them what they're doing good, and tell me what I need to work on. I appreciate that, but tell me the shit I don't want to hear, please.
Right.
And that's always refreshing. But it's, man, I have to, I think there's two big parts to this. Making sure that we're judging ourselves based off our actions, not our intentions, and keeping our fucking ego completely removed. And
what's the difference? What's the difference between, and I've heard this, like a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego?
Yeah, I was talking about this last night. I don't really think there is really much like healthy ego.
Okay.
And I've went back and I've had this conversation a lot over the years. I think ego comes from a place of us cutting corners and not doing the things. And so if we're every day, I'm gonna pause that part. Every day, if I'm getting up every day and I'm hitting the gym, I'm holding these standards, I'm leaving it all on the field, I'm doing all of these things, and I'm recognizing those things. Like each day that passes, as I continue to put these 24 hours together, like I'm gonna start getting trust and assurity within myself. Like, man, you fought through when you did that bitch voice kicked in. It was inconvenient. You still did it. Like all of the battles that we have within ourselves, and the more of those that we win, the more that confidence that starts building up, that trust within self.
Yep.
And so that's, we do that over time. A month, 6 months, a year. And it's like, okay, now we're really starting to build value and trust and surety within self.
Yeah.
To where it doesn't matter what the sidelines are saying. Like it's somebody talking shit, whatever. It's like I know, like I'm doing.
I know who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now on the flip side of that, if we, it's like I'm not doing those things, and it's like, all right, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm dial this all the way in, and I'm only going half the time I committed to whatever. It's this ego kicking in. It's like you really don't need to do that. You don't you don't need to put in all that extra work. But you should still get these results, because you're a little more special than everybody else. You're a little more talented. And so I just feel like it's I feel like ego is the gap that we fill, that we should have filled with action and decisions and discipline, that we fill with whatever we want it to be. That we fill with that we try to fill with what we want to be reality. And it's like, sales are, sales guys, we're all always want to inflate the numbers. And I found that so important because I did not put the numbers up there for like the first year.
Yeah.
And then I eventually and people would tell themselves like they're at this way bigger number than they actually are.
Yeah.
And instead of actually going to the facts. But again, for me, like my opinion, ego is when every discipline that we didn't hold, every time we cut out early, all that the ego is what steps in to fill that space and tries to tell ourselves to line up. It's okay. And
so a big question you got to ask yourself right out of the gate when you're being that self-evaluation or getting honest with yourself is, what am I operating more in?
Yeah.
Ego or action?
Right.
Yeah. Because those two can't coexist.
Yeah.
And my experience, I don't know how you feel about it, but very rarely, like you're saying, do I see guys that are fucking super egotistical, and also like we look in their fucking playbook and you're like, man, there ain't a whole lot of action here. There's just a lot of words. Right. And so I think that's really good. Yeah. And there's a huge difference, like you're saying, between ego and confidence.
Right.
Like huge. you can for sure look in the mirror and be like, I'm a bad mother. That's because that's based on action. That's factual data of things, right? That's not ego going, it's not, I'm a bad, and you can coast today. You know what I mean? Right. So
that's right. I'm glad you just said that, because that is one, I don't ever get in the mirror.
No, I get it. Yeah.
But I always think like, man, you got so much work to do.
Yeah.
So that is a big part that comes. So I had very rarely, I feel like, will we meet somebody with a massive ego and an extreme work ethic. you know, because it's
It's
like
100% accurate.
because they don't need to work that hard,
Right.
you know, they're special. But with that being said, it's whenever you know you've earned it, whatever, you hit this target, and you this is your vision, this is your target, you make all this money or whatever the case may be. I feel like one of two things happens. There's the one person that gets up, you know, after they just received that big payday, after working, busting their ass, you know, for however long, and they wake up the next day and it's like, okay, man, I deserve a break. I've earned it. You know, I showed them I could do it. I showed myself I could do it. I earned it. I'm going to take a break and take a vacation. I'll be back in, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that person just ends up like going up and down. And then the next person wakes up earlier the next day and with the mindset of like, okay, how do I do it more effectively?
Yeah.
How do I make sure my actions and my decisions are protecting this? You know, that's I think once that ego gets in there, man, they say ego is the number one killer, and I believe that, because it will seduce us, and it will make us believe like this false reality if we allow it to, you know.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the whole world's crumbling. Our world's crumbling down around us, and we're sitting here just like, well, this, you should have did this and you should have did that. Why didn't you do this? Instead of actually removing it and just being able to look at ourselves. And if we do that, we can see we burned it to the ground our own self.
I think ego is the root of all self-sabotage.
I developed a mindset, I don't know, probably within the first year or two, I think, and just started like asking myself, if I didn't bring another dollar in after today, how long would I be okay for? You know, how long would it be okay? So I just started like staying in that space, and having this reserve to where it's like, okay, we're okay for 30 days, we're okay for 6 months, a year, and so on and so forth, and just having that mindset. But it's like, man, going back with the evaluation of self and this ego, it's, if we have ego in there, we can never get a true evaluation of ourselves, because we got this ego over here that's painting this picture of a false reality of what we wish we were, you know, of what, if all of our intentions actually happened, who we would be. You know, if we actually did all the things we said we were going to do, and made the decisions that we said we were going to, what would we look like? You know, and some people will just live there, you know, but it's when we can remove that. And it's, man, I think a big, one thing that I try to do a lot is just to stay curious. Like, stay curious. There's a better way of what I'm doing right now. And that's not to say that I'm not like doing my best right now and doing a great job, but there's always better, you know? And if I let my ego get in there, it'll be like, man, you've made it. Look at what you've done. You've got this, you know, can't nobody tell you shit. And it's like, the moment that happens, I immediately start getting pushed back. Yeah. You know, and like, we shut off these things in our brain. I shut off, like, I'm not that smart, so I'm just dumb it down. I shut off these places in my brain that are curious of those new ways, that are coachable, that are willing to do those extra things, because I'm sitting there telling myself that I got to figure it out and can't nobody tell me shit. You know, I think that's where a lot of people like will the ego is so big, and I've seen this happen with people I've worked with, and it's like, man, they let the ego rob them of the complete experience. You know, it's like, of just staying right here and just playing it super safe. Yep. You know, so, you know, whenever it comes down to the evaluation of self, I think the biggest thing with that is knowing where we're starting, knowing where we're starting, and knowing who do we want to be. And start like speaking that into ourselves, like actually start doing that today. You know, if I want to be somebody who focuses, that doesn't focus on the negative shit and be a pessimistic person, then it's like, okay, how do I retrain myself to do that? You know, but it's so easy for people. Like, I could sit here and somebody you know, you lay it all out. It's like, Brandon, okay, I need help with this, this, and this. And I tell you those things like, okay, that's cool, that worked for you, but that probably wouldn't work for me because this. Right. Like, our ego will step in and telling ourselves we're so unique and everything else, and there's no way that could have worked, or you would have figured this out by now. Right. You know, but it's like, and I see that happen time and time again, but if we can stay into the space of like, man, I'm truly willing to do whatever it takes, and keeping that ego out of it. man, I was very impressed, like how fast I was able to change myself, you know, and it didn't happen overnight, but like, you know, it was like after like 30 days of setting out on this, maybe 30, 45 days, it was like the first time I looked in the mirror and I didn't hate myself. Like I could trust myself. I actually believed the things that were coming out of my mouth, you know, and that was like, so that was like the first step for me. Like, man, like I actually believe like you're going to actually do what you say you're going to do. And because that wasn't the case prior. And it was just these steps, you know, of doing what we say we're going to do and doing those things. But I had like, it became important for me to know, what does the man look like I want to become? You know, how does he wake up? What are the characters and discipline he has? What, you know, what are the things he does day in and day out? Who does he allow into his life?
Did you write that all out?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was literally going to say, man, I think that's a separator between the guys that I know who get close,
Yeah.
and then they stop. Like, I mean, I can think of just an example of myself, like so many targets of things that I've set, you know, especially in the past, where I get right up to that like 90% marker.
Yeah.
And then I just fall out of the disciplines.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, are the people that go through, like an example, like 75 hard, they get to like day 55 and then they fall out. Right.
Yeah.
But nobody, most of the time, the people I ask about that, like what happened, and myself in general, I didn't write it out.
Right.
So when the voice is like telling you you're close enough or whatever,
Yeah.
I fall out of the disciplines because I'm not attached to the purpose.
Right.
So I'm then like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you write all that out.
Yes. And the This Is Me.
Yeah.
So the This Is Me, I've been reading every day for about the past 4.5 years.
That's how you write it. This is me.
Yeah. This Is Me. That's the title of it.
Okay.
And I have a template for that. And the very first, so when I wrote This Is Me out, I was about 2 years out of prison. Business was successful, making more money than I ever thought possible. You know, beautiful life. But deep down, man, I was still viewing myself as this low life. I was still viewing myself like just this low life and horrible self-talk. You know, it's like, you're gonna fuck this up anyway. You know, you're just gonna mess it up. You're just gonna do what you always do. This is the first time I started working with a coach, and he suggested that I do this, and he called it something else, and I kind of redefined it a little bit and made it my own. But you know, the first paragraph in that is who am I today? Like, what do the facts, not who I feel like I am, what do the facts say I am today?
Yeah.
The next portion of that is 6 things you love about yourself. And then the next portion is going back to, okay, the most elite version of myself, the best version of myself I can possibly imagine. What are the characteristics that man has? What are the disciplines that man has? Who does he allow into his life? And all of those things are listed out. And then at the bottom is my vision and targets. And I am and I will statements. And I've been reading it every day for the past 4.5 years.
And you change those when you hit one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not one thing on there that I haven't achieved and or became. And I probably changed it 10 times over. And it's like, and not only, you know, when I'm reading that in the morning, I'm setting the tone for my day. This is my mission today. This is what I want my actions and my decisions to be aligned with today. This is why I don't have a choice today. So I read it then, but I mean, there's days that I've read it 10 times throughout the day, because it's like whenever I'm going through my day and, you know, the force of average, as Stuman refers to it as, is trying to distract me or derail me, I'll pull it back out and read it out loud again. Like if I'm going down a rabbit hole of fear or whatever the case may be, I'll read it out loud, and I always get right back into alignment. And it's been an awesome tool for me. You know, as you're writing it out, it's like, okay, what does the best version of myself look like? You know, as I was writing those things out, it was uncomfortable. And when I first started reading them out loud, I was uncomfortable saying it and hearing it. But eventually I got comfortable with hearing it and saying it. And eventually I actually started becoming those things and believing this is actually who you are. That was super, super vital for me.
Can you see, I've done similar exercises with people in the past, and I'm like, I think we all, from my perspective, and again, you weigh in on this, but I think we all know who we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Maybe not supposed to, but who we could be.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like if I close my eyes and I meditate and I think about that person who I could actually be, I could see it.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe just based on currently who I am, but I can see it. Right. Well, I've had people in the past tell me, I don't know who I am. Right. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always come from the space, and maybe it's just my own self-reflection or whatever, but I could always see that man.
Yeah.
I could always see him. Now I would always feed myself about what is the action it's going to take or who I actually have to become. I got to die to do that or whatever. And sometimes I didn't like that, or I mean, still today, there's times where I don't like it, but I could always see him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Do you feel that?
Man, it's been, yes, I can see him to a point. Like when it comes to like vision and targets, I haven't been somebody who's been able to get like a 5-year out there.
Yeah.
But I can get a year really dialed in, and then I just reassess. You know, I got some things like I know I want within a couple years, but I got really good at just dialing in the next 12 months and of who I want to become. But man, I don't know. It's tricky. You know, it's like we can only, especially as somebody starting out, we can only see from where we're at. And, you know, and I've talked with some people, you know, it's like, man, I have no idea. You know, I have no idea what I want to do. I don't know what a target looks like. I don't know what I want my vision to look like, anything at all. And you know, I coach, you know, a lot of our team on this of like just simplifying it and starting, you know, getting started with it. You know, it's like, okay, what do you want to earn over the next year? You know, why is that important to earn that? And just this is simple things, and then breaking it down in great detail. But I think it's like, man, for me, is being present in the moment is something that I try to be very intentional about, because I know the power in it. With that being said, it's easily to get distracted out of the moment.
Yeah.
And having the line of like, okay, this is who I want to become. This is my vision. This is my targets. This is the man or woman I want to become. But being present in this moment, right here, right now, is definitely a line. And I think with that, man, I think if we're open-minded and curious and willing, I think God shows us who we're supposed to be.
100%.
You know?
Yep.
It's like if whatever we're doing, you know, whether it be professionally, personally, and like we're just open-minded and curious and willing and try to do the fucking right thing. It's like God will show us who we are. Like, but we just got to be open-minded. And it's like, like if I'm sitting here looking at this phone the whole time and just stuck on this phone and not present in the moment, not anything, and just kind of going through the motions, like I'm never gonna know.
No.
You know, because I'm not being present in the moment. I'm comparing myself to everybody else. I'm, you know, living in the future, whatever the case may be. But when I can sit down, truly be present in the moment, just be open, I feel like God is going to show us who we're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of like what you're talking about, like from the phone in particular, why I have to be so cognizant of that and pay attention to it is because that's in consuming mode, and I don't think we can be focused on like becoming something different or creating something different work when we're all time consuming, right? So because that's very influential.
Yeah,
it can influence us to make us think that we should be something different than the path that we're actually intended to be on, right? So yeah, that's crazy. That's why I go back to that, like what you're talking about. I struggle sometimes with I'm very clear on what I believe God's intention for me is, balanced with the reconciliation of the man today to that man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think for me in particular, it's like I have a role to play in that, but that's not solely reliant upon me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we talk about it sometimes, like work as though it depends on me, pray as though I know it depends on God, right? Yeah. So and so that reconciliation is very hard sometimes, and not beating myself up about it, like I got to do all the work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I do have a responsibility in it.
Right.
I also stay in this space of like, it's not all my responsibility. It's his timing.
Right.
When when it's supposed to work, it'll work.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing. I just have to stay faithful
and
diligent, and not do dumb shit as best I can along the way.
I think that's that you said that. I gain the most independence being the most dependent. Whenever I learn to
that's good.
I gain the most independence being the most dependent. And I truly believe the measure of a human strength is in their surrender. And what I mean by that is my surrender to let go of control and just trust God. You know, that's because it was like whenever I learned to get out of the way, you know, that was like, and just trust God, like, because it might not look, it's what's going on right now might not look like it's going the way that I want it to go.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's going the way I need it to go to show me whatever lesson I need to work through, or help me develop the wisdom, and whatever the case, whatever I need to learn from that. And whenever I like leaned into that, you know, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me, and just truly trusting God, like clean house, trust God. And because like a lot of people will use, you know, finances as the levels of success. But you know, it's like, not everybody's meant to be rich. Not everybody's meant to be wealthy. Not everybody's meant, it's not. But one thing I do know is that, man, like especially traveling to third world countries, is like, man, I've met some of the happiest, most fulfilled people in my life that live on a dirt floor, you know? And it's all about like perspective. And when we can get out of the comparisons, like, man, I'm just going to suit up and show up, and I'm going to do my best every single day. And I'm going to trust God. And I'm just going to do it every day. It's like, man, the doors that got open like that were way, way better than the doors that I tried to kick down.
Try to force open.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think I think if we can just get out of the way sometimes, man, God shows us exactly who we are.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
I really think we could. It'd be really deep and probably fuck some people up, but it'd be really, but no, I think it would help a lot if we did something like that. Well, let's, like, how would you, what are some things that you would just say to people so we can wrap this bad boy up? Like again, going back always to where do I start? You know, like, so would you say like, take them through those steps you were talking about, that, you know, like how you have it in the book, like what are the things about your current self that you're not okay with?
Yes.
And what are some things that you want to change, and what are some what are some targets you want to set, and you know, that just take them through like a workbook kind of thing of like next steps.
Yeah. So I think again, are we judging ourselves off our actions or off our intentions? And like John was just saying, what are some things that like we need to work on within ourselves? And when you pinpoint that out, say, you know, it's like, man, I want to lose, you know, 20 pounds. Whenever you're writing that out, it's not, I want to lose this weight, or I, you know, want to stop eating fast food. It's, instead of putting down don't put down what you're going to stop doing, put down what you're going to start doing, put down the positive of it. There's something, you know, to our subconscious that hits on, but write out what those things are. So if I'm somebody's like, man, like I'm not that, I don't have a morning routine at all. Like, write out, okay, I'm going to wake up at the same time. I'm going to wake up at 7 o'clock every day. Then I'm going to do this. Put one thing on there that you're going to do every day. And then just keep stacking that up. But writing out, what is the man or woman that you truly do want to become? And what do you need to do to make that happen? And write that out. And this, for me, I didn't have success writing stuff out and looking at it once a month. I have to look at it daily. I have to remind myself daily. So write that out, of who you actually want to become, and not like, oh, this is who I want to become. This is I am and I will statements. And reminding yourself of that every day, and know, like, you're not going to do it perfect. You're going to fail. But like, if you're in a place where you're willing to fail your way forward, and be like in a place like where you're judging yourself based off reality. You know, it's like, okay, man, if I set the alarm for 7 and I didn't get up till 8, like that's reality. That happened. I'm not going to trip about it. You know, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. But how can I just move forward and make the best out of this day? Instead of like, oh man, I didn't do it. This is all some bullshit. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
I'll start Monday.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I think writing those out of who you actually want to become, the man or woman you actually want to become, and start doing those things, and remove, if there's something that's like, okay, I wanted to do this, or I think that I'm here, and then the next thing that pops into your mind is I'm not there, and this is why, remove all of that bullshit. Remove literally all of the excuses. And I think you'll be able to come up with a pretty clear vision of who you are today.
And we know this is, we like spend an hour with you guys a day. We could probably talk for days about the same stuff. We know this is a really deep topic for you guys. If you have questions and you want to fire off questions to us, absolutely do so. It's wit@brandonjroofing.com. wit@brandonjroofing.com. We'd love to hear the feedback. If you guys want to go deeper and you know, you're just like, hey, you hit on this. How do I handle this? Or how do I start with this or whatever? Just send it to us and we'll either respond direct backly to you or we'll do another podcast and answer it a little further down the line. Also, remember, guys, share this podcast, please. You know, we're just asking you guys, help us get it out. If you benefited something from it today, or you took something from it, and you know somebody else that you're thinking, you know, top of mind, you're like, damn, I wish this person would just hear this thing and understand this thing, and maybe you believe this can help them. Just get it out there. Grab the link, share the link out, so on and so on and so on. So we appreciate you guys. Anything else?
I want to say one thing before we go. So, and just like John's shirt says, own your shit. Own where you are today. Be proud of where you are today. It doesn't matter if like you burned your life to the ground yesterday and today's a new day and I'm setting out on this mission. Own that shit and be proud of it. And really lean into that. And that's how you're going to get where you're going. Appreciate you guys.
Welcome to it. This life is built, not fate.